Call of Duty has just made massive changes to how gunplay is going to work before the brand new Warzone and Modern Warfare 3 game releases. Now, considering Modern Warfare 3 weapons don't have visual obstruction, don't have barrel smoke, and generally speaking have much more refined recoil patterns, the question then became, why would anybody use the Modern Warfare 2 weapons? And if they updated the Modern Warfare 2 weapons, wouldn't every gun just feel like the same thing? Like, what would differentiate a Hurricane to an MP5? How would the M4 and the Lockman 5.56 feel any different if there was less visual recoil and no barrel smoke? And today we have our answer. Call of Duty has announced that for the brand new Warzone, for Modern Warfare 3 and for Modern Warfare 2, Sledgehammer Games has opted to entirely remove weapon tuning from both Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 weapons. And this is an utterly massive change that I think is hugely going to benefit the overall health of Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 and the integration that we're going to witness in Warzone. They've also included a super detailed stats page, which I will talk about later on in this video. But before I carry on, drop a like, make sure you subscribe for more deep dive content. We've got so much here for Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone, and we are absolutely driving to hit 200,000 subscribers. So I've glossed over all of the things that they're doing, but let's talk about why they're doing these things and what benefits they'll actually have to both Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2, and of course Call of Duty Warzone. Now, the first major benefit is solving the problem with mergers. Every single time we've had a Call of Duty game integrate with another one in Warzone, it has gone horrifically badly. The Cold War weapons, for example, had faster mobility, reload speeds, and weapon swap speeds than the Modern Warfare 2019 weapons, making the 2019 weapons completely redundant, and the Vanguard weapons were technically in some ways better than the Cold War weapons. And you ended up with this massive library of guns which were ultimately quite useless, and most of them effectively felt the same. And this was going to be an even more of an issue considering these are two sets of modernized weapons in the Modern Warfare 2 era and the Modern Warfare 3 era, and there would be a real lack of distinction between how these weapons handled and felt. And you can see this problem clear as day just by looking at the weapon arsenals themselves. Why would an MCW feel any different to a Lockman 5.56? They would be effectively the same weapon doing the same thing if Modern Warfare 2 weapons were brought in line with Modern Warfare 3 weapons. But if you leave the Modern Warfare 2 weapons with lots of visual smoke and lots of visual recoil that the Modern Warfare 3 weapons simply don't have, then you're effectively condemning that entire library to be useless anyway. So you end up with this weird situation where the guns are there, but there's just no point using them. So by updating the Modern Warfare 2 weapons, they'd solved the problem of them being redundant and not something that would be useful in the game. But they then introduced a new problem, which is lack of weapon distinction. If they've been updated, they're just going to feel like the same thing, and there's no way around that. If you look at just the Modern Warfare 3 weapons, there is actually a lot of variety in terms of how those weapons handle and feel. The MTZ to the MCW, the battle rifles feel like they have very different gameplay styles to them, and even the submachine guns seem to have different things going for them. But when you cloud that with Modern Warfare 2 things, it gets a lot messier. So the solution? Remove weapon tuning. Not only does this completely decomplicate the process of building a weapon, which by the way, with weapon tuning completely sucked for the average player, but it also means that weapons are going to be more distinct. The problem weapon tuning has always introduced into Call of Duty is that people naturally just go for the things that make sense, and there are no pros or cons, it's mostly just pros. So if you're building a certain gun to work in a certain way, you could effectively have 6 of the same weapon which kill people very quickly with very little recoil, maximum bullet velocity, etc, etc. Because whether you're tuning a weapon for multiplayer or for Battle Royale, ultimately you're looking to achieve simplistic goals. If you're tuning for BR, you want high bullet velocity, high damage, and minimal recoil. If you're tuning for multiplayer, you want fast ADS, fast reloads, and general mobility. So weapon tuning just made the whole process stupid. It was overcomplicated for the average player who ended up having to watch 7,000 TikToks and YouTube videos, and it ultimately created weapon clones of one another that just lacked variety and lacked distinction. Even at the end of Warzone right now, most of the weapons feel fairly samey if we're being honest. So this removal of weapon tuning for both Modern Warfare 2 weapons and Modern Warfare 3 weapons is a huge win, because it's going to make these guns balance entirely differently. It means that whether you're using an MW2 weapon or an MW3 weapon, those guns are going to have distinct feelings to them. And you're going to have to live with some of the cons of that weapon. You can't simply slap 5 attachments with tuning onto a gun and try to make it a super gun. If a gun has a lot of recoil by default, you're going to have to put attachments on that to counter it. And often the attachments that counter recoil end up making the weapon significantly slower or less mobile. So there's a real balancing act being done here that I think can be done in a really successful way. Objectively speaking, the Modern Warfare 3 weapons feel better than the Modern Warfare 2 weapons because of that lack of visual clutter, smoke, and recoil. So now that we've got 2 weapon arsenals that don't have that problem, have no weapon tuning, and actually will have some weapon diversity to them, they could really knock this out of the park in terms of making this integration feel seamless, making the weapons feel distinct, and making sure that they don't introduce a massive balancing mess and problem for the future. So I'm a huge fan of this change, and I hope they carry on with it. And this leads me really nicely to my second point, that Call of Duty could start getting a little bit wacky with how some of these weapons handle and operate. The 7.62 battle rifle in Modern Warfare 3, for example, is a slow-firing, high-recoil weapon that hits like a truck. But you also have other weapons which are high fire rate, medium damage, and have other cons. And you can really start to diversify these weapons by making them a little bit more extreme. If you look at the SMG category, you could have high recoil, high rate of fire, you could have low recoil, slower rate of fire, you could have mobility builds that end up having less damage, damage builds with less mobility, and you can really start diversifying that pool by making those guns play radically differently. It's around about time we had guns that were challenging. I mean, if you look at the MP5 from Cold War, for example, that was the first MP5 that actually had a bit of kick to it. And it's about time we went back to that formula. Loadout weapons are supposed to give you avenues to do things that you want to do in certain playstyles. They're not supposed to give you avenues where you just dominate because your gun's the best thing at everything. So I'm really a huge fan of this change. I hope they continue to rebalance both classes of weapons to make each and every single one of them feel more distinct. I don't want the Cronin Squall, for example, to feel like the 7.62 battle rifle in Modern Warfare 3. I don't want the Lockman 5.56, for example, to feel like the MTZ from Modern Warfare 3. And whilst we're at it, update the attachment pool. Let these attachments work across both classes of weapons, and more importantly, please, for the love of God, give us reticle customization. Why did we lose that feature? It was such a good thing to have. Now, alongside removing weapon tuning, they've also, finally, thank God, introduced an advanced stats page, which you can see on screen right now. And this is incredibly detailed, and it means that whether or not you're somebody who really cares about the minor details and how much of a change they'll make, there is still something there for those of you who want to try and achieve the best build. And it just means that you'll have to read through a few more statistics this time, rather than just spamming weapon sliders left and right. I'm a huge fan of this change. Don't get me wrong, there are people online like True Game Data, Warzone Loadouts, so on and so forth, who have done exceptional jobs at making this data available to people. But in my opinion, it should always be something that's in the game. I shouldn't have to go to an external site or platform, and even more importantly on top of that, when there's an update or a patch that changes things, I want to see those changes reflected immediately. I was extremely tired of seeing patch notes from Infinity Ward which were like, oh, we have nerfed the recoil. Okay, Infinity Ward, how much have you nerfed the recoil by? We're not going to tell you. Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing that? Like, it's a silly change because people are going to figure it out anyway. They're going to figure out and realize those things regardless, so just include it in the notes. And hopefully we will see these distinct changes, and this will hopefully, in my view, will be Sledgehammer confidently saying that they feel they can balance these weapon pools properly, and they're not worried about them being unbalanced because you can literally see the stats on screen at any given time. Overall, I think these are sweepingly positive changes for the game, for Call of Duty, and for Call of Duty Warzone especially in terms of the weapon pool and diversity. This is something that in my view represents Sledgehammer being willing to change core mechanics of how Call of Duty works, and that is only a positive thing for this game. They've already shown willingness to adjust the movement to be more in line with people's expectations. They're now willing to adjust the gunplay to make sure that people are enjoying themselves without unnecessary overcomplications. And the fact that they're so willing to go deep into the bones and guts of this game, change and rip out mechanics and mess around with things as they see fit, in my view, is huge. I think it's a massive bonus for the franchise, and I think Sledgehammer are doing what we would expect from modern development team on Call of Duty. Ultimately though, the proof is in the pudding, and balancing this game is not going to be easy, and I really hope they continue to do regular balance updates. I don't want this willy-nilly once every 3 months like we had at the start of Warzone 2 and Modern Warfare 2. You know, we shouldn't have an RPK be the meta for 2 to 3 months, or a fire shotgun be the meta for nearly a month. Be willing to make those changes quickly and fast, and you'll have a balanced game that people can actually mess around with and try to enjoy. So folks, that's it for this Modern Warfare 3/Warzone video. If you enjoyed this, please do drop a like, subscribe, we've got so much more content coming, including exclusive Warzone, Modern Warfare zombies, so on and so forth. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.